tired of it. We've already played it too much today, and we're not even halfway through the show yet. Steve, that sucked. It just sucked. Can you make me feel a little bit better? Is there something you could say that'll make me feel better? But I was really pissed off last night.
Yeah. The good news is the Olympics are a year away.
Okay.
And because literally this was a made-up tournament made for TV. They won literally nothing. Well, I wish USA would have won literally nothing.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But they're playing for gold medals in 12 months. And this only ramps up the rivalry. It only ramps up the stories we're going to tell between now and then. And it is great for hockey. And it's unfortunate the way it ended for American fans. But we'll do it for real in 12 months.
Well, don't tell those players that was for nothing. There was for a lot of pride. There was a lot of honor. Don't tell them it was for nothing, Steve Peters.
Exactly. No, you're right. The intensity these guys had on a tournament
yes.
that has no history and has no future is absolutely amazing. And that shows you what hockey players are like. I'm telling you, if you put 4 hockey players out in the backyard with boots, sticks, and a ball and say, Team USA versus Team Canada, they're going at it that hard. And I think that's what makes hockey players just a little bit different.
All right, Steve. So you watch tape for a living. You played the sport. You worked the sport for your livelihood. The way the game started, I thought it started slow, and that I felt that U.S. was kind of not getting back on defense, and I was getting a little frustrated. And of course, I don't know the game as well as you do, of course, but I took it as, all right, I was getting frustrated. I'm like, they're going to get beat here. And then, of course, Canada scores, and then I'm like, oh, no, here that pops the bubble. But if you hear all the pundits today, all 3 periods plus the overtime, it was like a game 7. I only felt that towards the third and in the overtime. Am I just I don't know, wet in the ears?
No, you're right. You're right. And I think what happened in this, especially in the first period, the tension and the nerves were so high. Mm-hmm. And you could see the Americans just didn't want to make a mistake. It's great. It's great to play not trying to make a mistake, but if you play that way, nothing good's going to happen either. And I think Team Canada found their game quicker. I think they found their pace quicker. I think they had more offensive opportunities quicker. But as the game wore on, Team USA finally started to play. And I think they finally started to find their game. And you look at that third period. That third period was fantastic.
Yeah.
And into overtime, the trading offensive chances. And I think the game finally loosened up. I'm surprised it took that long. And again, and I am kind of joking a little bit about this just being an all-star game, but it is an all-star game. And these guys, I thought the offense would open up a little bit sooner, but you could see how important this was for them to win this game. And no one wanted to be the guy that has egg on their face and makes the mistake. And I think that's why this game started slower than most people anticipate.
You're a former goalie. What can you say about Binnington?
It's a guy that I'll be honest. I'm not a huge Binnington fan.
Okay.
I'm not. I think in the NHL, I think he's a guy that plays on the edge, and sometimes he goes over that and he loses focus on the game. And he's a guy now that's won a Stanley Cup. He set the record for wins for the St. Louis Blues, and he played the best hockey of his career in that 10 minutes of overtime. He was absolutely elite and dialed in. We can sit here and talk about what happened with McDavid winning the game. This game was on the stick of Austin Matthews 3 times in overtime with fantastic opportunities. Like fantastic. 5 alarm bell saves by Binnington to keep that out of the net. Binnington to me is the MVP over that 10 minutes. Absolutely fantastic game.
All right, 2 parts. You can make a case you should have gave him the MVP, first of all. And then second part of that, you brought up Austin Matthews. Same thing. All this hype about Austin Matthews. And here in Phoenix, there are a lot of people that maybe have heard this guy, Austin Matthews. But if you're not a hockey fan, and then all of a sudden you tap into the sport, you're here in Scottsdale, Arizona, you were kind of maybe disappointed on how he played, even the whole tournament.
Yeah, one of the things to keep in mind with the way his season has gone all year, this is the guy that's been injured a large part of the season in Toronto, and I think that has affected him even into this tournament.
Fair.
But when you look at his tournament work, his body of work during this tournament, offensively, I don't think he had his best tournament. But up until the last 10 seconds of the tournament, he was defending incredibly well. Like, he had great stick. He was back checking well. He had done it, covered his defensive assignments well, stayed on the defensive side of players extremely well until it really, 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 really mattered. And then he didn't.
So let me ask you, the sport wins out for this. And if Gary Bettman, the commissioner, says, all right, Coach Pete, we need you to take what you just saw over the last week and improve it and basically benefit from it. How would you maybe take what you just saw happen? Because obviously all the eyes are on it. I'm sure, hey, it was political too, but so what? It's still got eyes to the sport. How can you now take advantage of it?
Yeah, I think it's big for hockey now to try to get the narrative on their stars. I think we saw that with the Tkachuks.
Yeah.
And you say what you want about fighting and get it out of the game. The reality was there were millions of eyes on that game because Team America dropped their gloves. They're just this reality of sport. And I think what Gary Bettman and the NHL needs to do is capture the personalities, and they're not just the superstars, but the guys that have the personalities, and recognize that those are the guys that can help drive the sport. And I think the Tkachuks are the perfect example of that. I do think that coming out and announcing the World Cup of Hockey every other year, opposite the Olympics, so you'd have 2 years Olympics, 2 years World Cup of Hockey, and so on. Every 2 years, you're going to get best on best. Huge move by the NHL. I do think they're taking strides, but they've got to capture the imagination of people this weekend. And you've got to get the narrative of Alex Ovechkin chasing Gretzky's record. That's got to get out there. I think you've got to capitalize on those stars that played as household names over the last 2 weeks and try to promote those guys as much as you can. It's great for the sport, but if it all goes away before playoff starts, I'm not sure if they achieve their goal.
Steve, in reference to that third period that Rock alluded to, I really appreciated the gear they were in. But that overtime, it seemed like they both found an extra gear to go to, going back and forth. And I agree. I think that early on in that period, the USA had a chance to win that, but Bennington just was phenomenal. But on that last goal, and when I texted you last night, in watching a football game or basketball game, when somebody's wide open like that, I mean, McDavid gets out in front of the net, and it seemed as though, I don't know, it just seemed more open than normal. Maybe I'm all wet on this, but
I want to jump in on this too, because Dan and I were going back on that. I didn't think he was that open. I just thought he was freaking great. He just was in the right place at the right time. That's why he's the best player in the world or on the planet. I mean, but was he wide open? Was that considered a wide open spot?
Yeah, without a doubt, to leave the best player right now in the world undefended in the most dangerous scoring area on the ice was egregious by Team USA.
Yeah,
unexcusable by Team USA. And I talked about it before the tournament.
Yes, you did.
Stay on McDavid.
You did.
Defend McDavid even when you have the puck. That's how much he can break a game open. He struggled through this game. McDavid had turnovers. He couldn't maintain the puck. He was defended very well.
Yeah.
But when it all came down to it, he was wide open. Why does that happen?
About 3 more minutes.
Because I watched the game in slow motion, frame by frame. This happens so fast. And the puck rims around the boards. And Austin Matthews sees Mitch Marner all alone. That's all he sees.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch Marner's alone in the corner with the puck. I got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Forgetting that his responsibility is in front of the net with Connor McDavid. And you get so frustrated because one of the best defensive players for Team USA is the guy that left the most vulnerable spot at the worst of all times. And it is very frustrating. And I will say this, and I did do this for a living where I broke down these plays and I have to assign blame to players. I literally did that for my job.
Okay.
And I over the last 24 hours, well, not even 24 hours yet, people coming at me on the internet that I'm an idiot, that I don't know what I'm talking about, is a little bit frustrating. I just want to throw that out there. A little frustrating. So for those listening, unfortunately, this was Austin Matthews' fault.
And
you go there.
And you said it the other day. Don't give Connor McDavid space. I remember that. That's why when I texted you last night, too much space, and you went absolutely. And you went blow an assignment. I went, wow. Of all the people to leave alone, and you nailed it, Steve. You really did.
It's frustrating. It is frustrating, and I don't want to. I'm not picking on Austin Matthews. I'm just. That was the reality of the situation.
Sure.
Now, what did he see, and why did he do it? Well, that's another story.
Yeah.
You know, you got to go the communication with Adam Fox behind the net. Could Brock Nelson help out on the weak side? All of those things, the hockey stuff that nobody really is concerned about today. Above all, if you're that close to the best player in the world, you don't leave him alone. And that's really what this comes down to.
Good to start wrapping.
But Binnington makes the saves at the other end. That's hockey. That hockey is a game of mistakes because it happens so fast. It's not preset like football. You don't have a down and a play route. It's chaos. And when the puck drops, you have to make quick decisions. And in a short tournament like this, when you don't have cohesive line mates, you don't have a structure built in by a coaching staff, mistakes happen even more often. And I think that's what Team USA is going to have to learn going into the Olympics is, hey, we got to get on the same page on our defensive zone systems, our neutral zone systems. And I think you'll see a much more structured Team USA 12 months from now.
Last one, Petey. How close were the Coyotes to getting Connor McDavid?
Why would you do that to me?
I have to, because it drove me nuts yesterday. I was saying that everybody watching the game, I'm like, you don't realize the Coyotes were supposed to get him. That was before he won the game.
And what a difference the path would have had for a franchise if a player like Connor McDavid is playing here in the desert. A new building happens. The sponsorship happens. We are not sitting where we are today. And it's funny because in hindsight, that team won some games down the stretch that they probably should not have.
Exactly.
And put themselves in a worse position in the lottery. And I remember sitting there in Buffalo, New York, and winning a game in overtime against Buffalo going, what are we doing? And I know you don't want to hear that from your coaching staff. Coaches are supposed to win. But at that point, I'm thinking a Tuesday in Buffalo, 6 months from now, no one's going to care. No one's going to care that you won that game. They are going to care when the ping pong ball comes up and it's not an Arizona Coyote logo on it. And that's what happened. And unfortunately, the Coyotes finished third in that lottery. Don't get McDavid. Don't get
good to break
up with Dylan Strome. He's a nice player. Really nice player.
Nice.
But those other two players change a franchise. And McDavid, literally, if he's an Arizona Coyote, this team is not just here, but flourishing here. And that's how it's so frustrating that you miss out on Sidney Crosby when the Coyotes were the worst team in hockey. Pittsburgh wins the ping pong balls. Why? Because of the lockout. Just Coyotes luck. So maybe Coyotes 2.0 in 29-30 will have much better lottery luck. Hang in there.
Thank you, Steve.
Hang in there.
Thanks you, Petey. We'll
Thanks,
talk to you
guys.
soon, buddy.
Thanks, Coach.
Don't be a
Appreciate it.
stranger. Don't be a stranger.
Thanks, guys. Talk soon.
That's Coach Pete. Steve Peters, Puck Talk. Check it out. S. Peters Hockey does a tremendous job. He's with ESPN.
Sure does, boy.
And a former coach for 20-plus years for the Yotes. All right, we'll go back to baseball. You will have a new home for Sunday night baseball come next year. And we have a new look for the New York Yankees for this upcoming season. Listening to ESPN 629.